The vote to allow horse slaughter in Oklahoma did not fall so much along party lines, but reflected more of an urban-rural dynamic. The horse slaughter bill is one of only a few issues that have divided urban and rural lawmakers this legislative session. Unlike previous sessions when rural and urban legislators disagreed on a variety of topics. Water and education are always hot-button issues, but something else is a special concern of rural lawmakers this year.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
State Representative Dale DeWitt of Bremen chairs the House Agriculture and Wildlife Committee and is co-founder of the House Rural Caucus. DeWitt says the panel's goal is to address concerns unique to rural Oklahoma.
The members here are realizing that we're not here to compete against each other. We're here to work together and move all of Oklahoma forward. And if rural Oklahoma is doing good, all of Oklahoma is doing good.
Senator Ron Justice of Chickasha chairs the Senate Rural Caucus and sees its role as educating urban lawmakers about rural issues.
Obviously, it's important that we take a hard look at what's going on in the rural areas and make sure that we're working with the other legislators to help relay those concerns.
The House Rural Caucus is bipartisan, counting among its members Democrats such as Wade Russolo of OK, who says water is on the minds of many lawmakers.
As Mark Twain said, whiskey's for drinking and water's for fighting over. Water is the most important commodity that we have, period.
Senator Tom Ivester of Sayre believes proper funding for education is a priority.
Education funding for Common Ed has been decreased over the last 3 or 4 years, almost 20%. There are no plans to increase it, and small school districts are just getting squeezed to the point where financially they're having big problems.
The biggest issue uniting rural lawmakers this year is health care. Representative Doug Cox is an emergency room physician in Grove. Cox says the legislature has taken steps in recent years to address problems like the shortage of physicians in rural areas.
We are funding some new residency programs through OSU and particularly in rural areas with a focus on recruiting medical students who have a rural background. And then as part of their training, have them spend an increased amount of time during their residency out in rural hospitals.
Cox says the financial health of those rural hospitals is becoming increasingly shaky.
Rural hospitals see a significantly higher percentage of patients that are indigent than urban hospitals. And by federal law, we have to provide care for all comers to the emergency room that are admitted to the hospital with an emergency condition. We cannot turn people away due to an inability to pay.
According to a report from the Oklahoma Hospital Association, 62% of rural hospitals in Oklahoma lost money in 2009, the last year for which numbers are available. Cox says many of those hospitals receive disproportionate share or DISH payments, which Medicaid sends to hospitals that have a higher percentage of low-income patients. Those payments are being phased out as part of the Affordable Care Act. As a result, Cox says rural hospitals are being caught in a financial squeeze.
We're still going to have all of those uninsured people that we have to take care of, and yet we're going to lose that enhanced federal payment. And so that's going to put an increasing financial burden on our rural hospitals, some of which may not survive without that DISH payment.
Craig Jones is president of the Oklahoma Hospital Association. He believes Governor Mary Fallon's decision not to expand Medicaid in Oklahoma will worsen the financial problems rural hospitals face.
The idea was you were going to lose some payments here, but you were going to pick it up with the expansion. Well, those cuts have been accepted. The expansion, which everyone thought was going to be mandated, is now an alternative that each state can elect to do.
The association estimates rural hospitals expect losses of about $219 million over the next 10 years as a result of cuts agreed to in the Affordable Care Act. Sequestration is expected to cut another $74 million over the same period for a total revenue loss of $293 million. Jim Berry is CEO of Purcell Municipal Hospital, which figures to lose about $5.6 million over the next 10 years.
You're probably looking at a loss of about 2 to 3%, or $400,000 or $500,000 per year. We'll have to try to figure out how to make up that loss through cuts of one measure or another.
Barry says those cuts are likely to be felt throughout the entire community.
We have about 185 checks that we cut every 2 weeks. Am I going to have to reduce my nursing staff, my staffing ratios? Are there services that may be discontinued based upon our ability to continue to pay people to offer those services?
Rural lawmakers agree it's important to protect those services, but aren't sure how to go about it.
If we lose some of those dollars out there that are very critical to our rural hospitals, then I hope as a state that we can kind of backfill those in with state dollars. And I know it'd be difficult, but I think that we have to continue to look at that to keep those hospitals operating.
Our rural hospitals have asked those of us that represent them to fight for accepting the Medicaid expansion, and that is our goal. I'm not through fighting for it.
The governor has repeatedly maintained expanding Medicaid in Oklahoma would be unaffordable. But Ivester believes she will eventually accept federal Medicaid money.
I've seen the numbers. It'll be devastating to our rural hospitals. It'll put some of them out of business, and it's my prediction that the governor will eventually create an Oklahoma program to take advantage of it.
Either way, rural lawmakers remain focused on finding ways to provide affordable health care to their constituents and keeping small communities alive.
Without the health care, then it's hard to grow business and industry in rural Oklahoma because it's such a vital part of that, the growth of rural Oklahoma.